Welcome to your Daily 5 for Wednesday, January 29th, 2025. I've talked more than a few times about how much I miss the Pebble Smartwatch in particular, the one that, it went out of service according to this Ars article about 8 years ago, and it was basically kept on, still is, I should say, is kept on life support through a project with a bunch of dedicated people called the Rebel Project. I think it's rebel.io. And in fact, I was using a Pebble smartwatch up until, I guess, a couple of years ago. I don't exactly remember when I got the Pixel Watch 2, and I really only got it because the Pebble finally started to have some problems interacting with the modern Android phone that I had. And I really didn't want to give that thing up, but there came a point where it just was not fulfilling. And I don't need a lot of stuff out of a smartwatch. I really don't. But I got to a point where even some of the things I relied on just were not working reliably, and I decided to get the Pixel Watch 2, which is fine, but honestly, there has not been a single point or thing about this watch that has made me sorry that the Pebble doesn't exist anymore. And so, I was very happy to see that, at least potentially, the Pebble Watch may be coming back in some form. One of the original founders, Eric Mijakovsky, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, has launched a page called Repebble. He's one of the people who helped out with the Rebel project to begin with, the one that was keeping the older watches running. And he, I guess, in one of the few times where Google's laissez-faire attitude towards everything actually pays off for people, he apparently asked Google to release the source code for the Pebble OS to be able to make new watches. And it seems like they have released everything that wasn't something strictly proprietary, so that a watch is it's much more possible now for Eric Eric and his team, I should say. Apparently he has a small group of people. I don't know what the number is. But for these individuals to actually make a new smartwatch. Now, one thing to note, the first line in this Ars article that I'm going to link in the show notes has the founder saying, "We're making new Pebble watches again." But then if you read a little further, and if you actually go to the page for it, it's if there's enough interest. So this is not something that was basically ready to go once the last part was in place. I think there's still quite a ways to go before we'll see a new Pebble smartwatch, if we ever do. So you do have to take this with a fairly large grain of salt, because it's very easy to have the ambition to do something. It's something else to actually realize it. But certainly this is a big step to get the source code, or at least the important parts, a majority of the source code to actually make these watches again, does indicate that it's very possible it could be made. Now, there could be, who knows what hiccups may come up in the way. There may be some kind of technical challenge that sinks the watch from ever being complete. I mean, you can get to 99% of something being done, and that last 1% could be what sinks the boat. So again, this isn't something that we're going to see inside of 6 months, I don't think, but at least we do have a possible path for people who aren't satisfied with either the Apple Watch or the Google watches or Android watches in general to have something that might last, I don't know, more than a day on its battery. And I know there are some watches now that if you put them into certain modes and limit certain capabilities, last more than a day. But there is nothing that I've seen, and certainly nothing that I've used, that has compared to Pebble being a once-a-week recharge watch. What else is doing that? Not many. I do think there might be one or two that promise that type of battery life. But again, I'm pretty sure you have to knock out a significant number of the features that are being marketed for these watches for them to reach the maximum battery life that they're saying. And it's certainly not like either the Apple Watch or the Google Pixel watches, and probably other Android watches that I haven't tried, don't have their share of little hiccups and bugs and suddenly losing battery life when a certain update is done. I've seen a lot of that lately. So yeah, I would definitely be interested. Again, we'd have to see what form it actually takes and how well it actually works. I mean, that's the thing, is you can say we're bringing this thing back, but we really don't know what form it's going to take. But assuming, and it's a big assumption, that they could actually bring a modern version of what the Pebble Watch was, I think that I would probably not be the only person that would be significantly interested in that. And I really hope that it happens. If for no other reason, then it gives people a smartwatch that has a significant battery life. It will probably be missing some of the features that bigger watches have, but honestly, there are a lot of people who don't care about a lot of those features. So I've talked about a middle ground watch many times, something that has some features but doesn't do everything. So could the Pebble come back and be that watch? I'll tell you what, I really hope. We'll have to wait and see, but at least now it is possible. Later.